Hey, look out. It's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
Joel Malm in that frame there as we're FB Live, Facebook Live, and also YouTube. Joel, how are you?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Hey, when your word or when your name came across the desk, I thought I read some of your bio and what you're putting out. I was like, hey, we got to get this guy on the show. So I'm so glad you made time for us because we know you're busy. Now, I don't know why you would write a book in this time that says love slows down, how to keep anger and anxiety from ruining life's relationships.
There's no anger or anxiety right now. I don't know why you would do that.
The anxiety.
Well, I figure at some point you're going to come across somebody that might have a little anger. And you don't have any anger, of course, but somebody might have some.
Love it. Joel is a counselor, leadership coach, entrepreneur. And he loves his Rhodes microphone stuff. So if you're a salesman,
we do too.
more stuff. He loves it. Thanks for using quality stuff. Your message is quality. So thank you for using stuff so that we can hear it. And also then in book form, I see the book there behind you. That is well done. All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about love slowing down. Now, where'd you get the idea? Is this something you wrestled with personally or what?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Anger's been a kind of a constant companion. I think most men, if we're honest, have a little bit of anger kind of sitting below the surface most of the time. And I started doing these outdoor expeditions and I started realizing just how much I could process my life through outdoor expeditions. My friend Mark Batterson, he's been on a bunch of trips with me and he said, change of pace plus change of place equals change of perspective, which I think is what counseling is really about. Yeah. And I'm not into doing counseling in a clinical setting. That's just doesn't work for me that great. But man, I love the outdoors. And I started realizing a lot of my anger, where it was coming from through doing outdoor expeditions, which is the craziest thing. But that's where it started. And I got some of my own help, got a master's degree in counseling, learned a lot about where anger comes from. And then I learned this framework that I really think helped explain where all of our anger tends to come from the same place consistently. And it's usually a threat to one of three basic things. And that's what the premise of the book is. What are these three things that are always threatening us that tend to lead to anxiety, tend to lead to anger?
All right. Can you give us a hint of what these three things are so we can kind of know where to start?
Absolutely not. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. It's always, so anger isn't, it's always a secondary emotion. Mm-hmm. So it comes after we feel something else. Now that first emotion may come really quickly, but it comes after something else. And anger always comes from a threat to either our security, our physical, emotional security, financial security, a threat to our connection, which is feeling valued and esteemed and heard and seen by others, or a threat to our control, our sense of the free will and the ability to make choices. Whenever you feel angry, it always goes down to one of those things. And it's usually the same thing over and over for us. So mine's always control. Control gets me, which means traffic. Traffic is not a good situation for Joel.
Amen to that, yeah.
So, and it's a control thing. It's not security. We're going like 7 miles an hour. I'm not worried for my security. Right. I have no desire to connect with people in the cars around me. So it's not a connection thing. It's these people are in the way. And then when you get to where the traffic was the slowdown, there's no
nothing
reason.
there. Yes.
What in the world?
Joel, you're living my life, man.
Joel Malm, he's a counselor, leadership coach, and entrepreneur. I was just thinking somebody said something the other day, which I hadn't heard for a long time. That person has a short fuse. Mm-hmm. Growing up in a household, my mother had I don't even know if she had a fuse. I think she just bam, it was done. My dad, on the other hand, was kind of the slow fuse, and I picked up the slow fuse thing. So I can get angry, stuff it. And it could be that if somebody put a cup in the wrong place in the pantry or the cabinet, and then I come unglued. Help me here. How can I get fixed? I need you to fix me in 8 minutes. Come on.
Well, the best thing you could do is what I talk about in the book. You got to consult that anger. Anger isn't a sin. It's just a sign. It's like a dashboard light. If you see that dashboard light come on, you ignore it for too long, it ain't going to go well. You need to look under the hood. What's going on under the hood of the car? And what you need to do is figure out what is it you're consistently feeling threatened. And here's where love slows down comes in. All those things that we need, security, connection, control, they're only going to be fulfilled in God's love. We were made from God's love, made for God's love, and we're called to return to that love. Your spouse, your job, what you know, what you own, none of that will fulfill it. So you've got to go back and you got to look and say, what is it that I'm always looking for to be fulfilled apart from God? Because if you're trying to fill it on your own, it's never going to work. That's what Jesus said in Matthew 6:33. He said, I know you're worried about what you're going to eat, where you're going to live, what you're going to wear, that security, that connection, control. But I'm telling you, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Look for something higher, and then all those other things, I'll take care of those for you. But you're not going to find it looking for it on your own, trying to make it happen on your own. You seek my kingdom, I'll provide all those things for you.
That's so good.
Joel, is there a hint in the title as far as love? When we think about love, slows down. So does that mean we've got to take a breath, slow down, think about it, and then proceed?
You got it. Love slows down, anger speeds up. And when
Wow, that's good.
Yeah. So what you got to do is you first have, there's the controlling it thing. Right? There's the things you do. I talk in the start of the book, the practical things you do to keep from doing something dumb when you're angry. Because, when you're angry, activity shifts from the prefrontal cortex, which is your smart part of your brain, to the crazy primal part. And you go into the fight or flight mode and you do all these crazy things. So you got to slow down and let your brain reset. But then there's also the idea of, there's the responsive anger, the stuff we do that just makes us explode. But there's also that low grade anger that some of us have. It's just sitting there. And a lot of us are experiencing it right now because of this COVID thing.
Yeah.
And it's just been sitting there because there's a lot of fear. And remember, fear always leads to anger. There's been a lot of fear and it's going to come out as anger. So you have to slow down and you have to start looking at the deeper issues that are going on below the surface. Because when you get angry at something happening to you, it's always because of something happening inside of you.
Yeah.
So just start to slow down, look at that, consult the anger. What's the thing I feel threatened, and go back to that. But it starts with slowing down.
Yeah, which is hard a lot of times in our fast-paced world where we're like, I got to get all this stuff done.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Joel, what was it that caused you to write the book? Did you, obviously yourself, you had some challenges and you wanted to move along with this thing, to have a healthy relationship. Was it, did you see folks around you and you just wanted to help them? And if so, those that have read it or maybe heard you talk about it, how has it changed their perspective?
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, I started talking about a different theme, but I would mention anger and fear. And when I would talk to these groups of people, all of a sudden I'd see them lock in with me as soon as I said anger or fear. And they're like, oh, there's something here. This is triggering people, these two words. And as I started talking to people literally around the world, in Spanish and French, they all had the same things. They're just like, why do I get so angry? Why, and how do I, what's the connection between anxiety and anger? Because I feel like I get anxious and then I just explode. And so I started writing it based on what I heard were the felt needs, and then on my own personal experience. And the more I unpacked it, the more I realized we've all got the same issues.
I like that. I've never thought of that the anxiety then can lead to anger. But if I go back and think about a lot of things that get me angry, it starts with anxiety, like you said, over not being able to control it, or any of the other three, but especially the control for me. Wow, that's eye-opening. So thank you for writing this.
Well, we have a guy that we have on from time to time. He's a wonderful guy, but he's just like, chill all the time. And I get angry at him even saying that. So I just wanted to let you in on that. I love everything about what you're describing in this book, and I've got to get a copy. Of course, there could be one on our desk in downtown Atlanta.
We don't know because we've not been there.
From home over the last. Not complaining. We love every minute of it. All right, 7 types of subtle anger. Can you go over a few? I don't know if we have time for 7, but maybe the important one, the ultra important ones.
Yeah, there's all sorts of subtle anger. It's a little more socially acceptable. You've got the long fuse person, call them like the volcano, where they only erupt every 7 to 10 years. It all builds up, and then it's just this explosion. And they feel great once it's done, but everybody's cowering in fear in the corner. And then you're like, hey, let's go out for pizza, guys. And they're like, who is this person? Hey. Then there's the candy-coated razor remark. I love this one. I preached a series of sermons at this church 4 weeks. And on the 4th week, a sweet little lady came up to me and she said, I really enjoyed this last message. You were finally preaching from the Bible. Oh, smiled and walked away. And I was like, woo, somebody's angry.
Yeah.
There's the gang fighter, which I see this a lot of times with couples will get together, and then the one spouse will start kind of making fun of their husband or wife in front of the group of people. They've got the courage in front of that. And I'm thinking, that's not going to go well when they get home.
No,
it's stuff they've been wanting to express, and they feel safe to do it. There's sarcasm. Sarcasm's a kind of a form of anger. All these different ways we show anger that are they're subtle, they're socially acceptable. And we can even start to believe, well, I don't really get angry. In fact, we've found a lot of studies on this, that we found that people in that connection corner, they don't like to call it anger. They prefer to call it frustration. So if you say,
same thing.
I don't get angry. I just get frustrated. Connection. That's awesome. I'm like, that's a connection trigger right there. Yeah.
Joel Malm, a great book is called Love Slows Down, How to Keep Anger and Anxiety from Ruining Life's Relationships. And, really at the core, we want healthy relationships. I mean, I don't want to be angry at my kids and sin. I love what you said about anger is not sin, that it's a symptom. So I've got to go back and say, like Dan, and I think it's about the same thing. I think Dan and I were separated at birth, actually.
Yeah.
But it's a fear and anxiety, and then that control to, kind of mask it, and then bam. Thank you for writing this book. I'm sure you had so much material that you could have a book too. Is that something you've thought of maybe for 2021?
Love slows down more.
Love slows down more, or the 2020 edition, which has brought some unique angles. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that you mentioned sarcasm. My toes were stepped on because I thought sarcasm was a spiritual gift, but now I know it could come from anger. So,
all right, this last statement here, Joel. Then we got to go to a break. Tell us that we can't fix this overnight, right? This is a lifetime challenge, maybe.
Oh yeah, it never goes away. Kind of like fear, it never completely goes away. But as you get awareness about it, you can start to cut it off at the pass. I talk a lot of practical things in the book, or things like the same things tend to make you angry over again. For me, it's the doctor's visit, the traffic. So when you're going into those situations, you give yourself a pep talk. Sometimes as simple as this is going to be a problem, or you're always fighting with your kids in the morning trying to get them ready for school. And it's like, well, there's ways you can get around it, like get the clothes ready beforehand, pack the lunches the night before, just basic things that they always sneak up on us. And then we're like, it got me again. So there's some practical things you can do, but it's always going to be there, because we're never going to have the total fulfillment every moment of the day that we're looking for in Christ. We always have to go back every moment and say, there's something again I'm not surrendered to God. Surrender it again, you go back, but it doesn't have to rule your life is the key that I talk about in the book. It doesn't have to rule your life, doesn't have to ruin your relationships. If you'll be aware of it, you can head it off at the pass.
Hey, Joel, we'd love to talk to you again, maybe in a couple of months. I'm sure that your schedule is full, but if you could squeeze us in a couple of months, we'd like to check in on you. Hey, check out the book. It's Love Slows Down, How to Keep Anger and Anxiety from Ruining Life's Relationships. Joel Malm. Hey, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.